Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Subject is Advanced Corporate Finance. In today's lecture is on dividend policy. I am Majidullah Khan, Assistant Professor, Institute of Business Studies, Guwahati University of Science and Technology, Kohat. Teaching agenda for today's lecture is passive versus active dividend policy, factor influencing dividend policy, what is dividend stability, dividend valuation of dividend stability. So moving further, dividend is a passive or active decisions. What is passive decision? Passive decision is that organization try to invest the money earned by the company or the profit earned by the company in all positive NPV project. Whatever is left or the residual is then distributed among the shareholder. While in active policies, these positive NPV project are not considered. They first consider that dividend should be paid to the shareholder. So dividend is a passive or residual policy. We will discuss it. First question arises that can the payment of cash dividend affect shareholder wealth or not? It is debatable questions. If the answer is yes, then another question arises. What the another questions? The payment of cash payment of share dividend can increase or decrease the wealth of shareholder or not? This is first question. If yes, then what dividend payout ratio will maximize the shareholder wealth? For example, if a company is earning 100 rupees or $100 a day in a year, let's suppose company earn $100, that is net profit or net income available to shareholder. How much should be paid that increase shareholder wealth? 20 rupees or 20%, 10 rupees or 10% in 100 means or 40% of net income or 60% of net income or 70% of net income. What payout ratio will be most optimal to increase the wealth of shareholder? So this is second question, and this is no clear-cut answer to this both questions. First of all, the firm uses earning plus additional financing that increase equity can support to finance the expected positive NPV project. Means the company invest in project, means positive NPV project, where the financing comes from. There are oftenly two sources. One is external and other is earning of the company, means profit of the company that the company earned during the year. Additional financing is one source, while second source is their own earning. But even it is first source and it is second source. So any unused earning are paid out in the form of dividend to the shareholder. So dividend is what? Dividend is basically when the profit, a portion of the profit is distributed among the shareholder, it is called dividend. A passive strategy is when, let's suppose, this $100 income is first invested in 5 projects, let's suppose, and consume, let's suppose 90 rupees is invested in all positive NPV. Means 90% investment have been done. What is left? The left is 10%. That is called residual. So this 10% is then pay out in the form of dividend. And it is called passive dividend policy, that everything have been first, the whole earning is a portion to the all positive NPV, and what is left then it is distributed among shareholders. That is called passive dividend policy. Relevance and irrelevance. First we should understand that what is relevance and what is irrelevance. Relevance is basically, we talk about that payment of dividend have any impact on shareholder wealth or not. Shareholder wealth or not. If payment of dividend increase or decrease the wealth of shareholder, we call it that it have relevancy in value maximization. If any of the decision, either it is capital structure decision or dividend policy, when it have no effect on shareholder value or wealth, then we call its irrelevance. So we will discuss it. First point comes that current dividend versus retention of earnings. So that is basically that if the shareholder will either expect dividend today or they will expect that their money have to be invested in the growth of the company. So one is today money and other is growth of the company. Some shareholder want that their investment grow, while some shareholder wants that they should receive current dividend. So what Miller and Modigliani, whose irrelevance theory for capital structure is very much popular. So in dividend policy, contends that effect of individual payment to shareholder is exactly offset by other mean of financing. First is, it said that if we pay there is $100 income and we pay 50 rupees in dividend to the shareholder, that the company again will borrow 50, that is, let's suppose, in shareholder. So again it would need financing, that $50 would be borrowed from other party. Means the company pay $50 dividend and afterward they get external financing of $50. So payment on shareholder wealth is exactly offset by other mean of financing. That is their assumption. The dividend plus a new stock. Dividend plus new stock price after dilution exactly equal the stock price prior to the dividend distribution. So if we say that this $50 will be raised from issuing a new stock, this new stock, what will do, that number of share will be increased and earning per share will become diluted earning per share. We will discuss it in coming example. So theory says that dividend decisions have no relevancy in shareholder wealth maximization. Conservation of value. means, so what the investor will prefer, they will conserve their value. In the total value principle ensure that the sum of the market value plus the current dividend of the two firms are identical in all respect other than paying dividend. He says that let's suppose there are two firms, that is not drawn to the scale, but it is A and it is B. It is $100 value, let's suppose $1,000 value, and it has $1,000 value. Everything is same. They are operating in the same industry, they have same size, they have same shareholding pattern, but B firms, let's suppose, issue a dividend of 100 rupees, $100. So the wealth of this A firm for all shareholder is 1,000. After paying a dividend to the shareholder, they will be left with $900 here in the firms and 100 in the hand of shareholder. So totally this plus this, again the value for the shareholder is same. So it said that share dividend policy have no effect on the wealth of shareholder. Secondly, they says that theory say that investor can create any dividend policy they desire by selling their share when the dividend payout is low, or buying the shares when the dividend payout is excessive. What it means? It says that let's suppose the company, there are A, B, C, three company, and X and Y are two shareholders. They have share in company A both. X prefer that the company can grow but don't prefer to receive any dividend, while Y want to receive dividend, but A do not announce any dividend during the year, and even there is no chance that the A will announce any dividend in the coming year. So what Y will do, Y dispose their 5%, 50% of their shareholding in A and invest it in a C, which give continuous dividend. So the theory says that the shareholder have a choice in open market to sell some of their shareholding in a company who have a very poor history in paying a dividend, and invest in such a company who give consistently a higher dividend on the share. So it is in the hand of the shareholder to create their own portfolio according to their desire. Relevance of dividend, there is another side of the dividend policy. Relevance, who says that it is relevant? Some theorists and some finance experts says that the dividend have their relevant and shareholder wealth, means dividend if have impact on shareholder wealth maximization. Paying a dividend maximizes the shareholder wealth or decrease the shareholder wealth. That is relevance to the decision making process. Relevance means the dividend decision is relevant in increasing the shareholder wealth or not. That is basically relevance policy. Preference for dividend. There are two, maybe, which is called also clientele effect as well. People sometimes it is called a bird in hand theory. Bird in hand theory says that a bird in hand is worth more than two in the bush. Bird in hand. Why it is said? It said that the dividend today is better than it is received after a year. Why? Bird in hand theory works because they said that uncertainty surrounding future company profitability leads certain investors to prefer certainty of current dividend. So certain investors believe that future is uncertain and they will prefer that leaving the investment in uncertainty rather than receiving something or some amount of it in current period. So investors prefer large dividend rather than no dividend. Investors do not like manufacture or homemade dividend but prefer the company to distribute them directly. These are some points which are given in the figure of relevance of dividend. Second is the relevance is due to taxes. Capital gain taxes. What is capital gain? Let's suppose you buy a share on $10 and hold it. Holding period is 1 year. 1 year and sell it after 1 year on 15. So $5 is capital gain, means that is value increase in your shares. You will pay a capital gain tax when actually you going to sell this shares which you buy on 10 and now you actually sale taken place, you will pay a capital gain tax. So you can defer it. If you are not willing to sell your share, you may defer it for a year, for 2, for 3, whenever you want. You will sell this share and gain a capital and under capital gain, and then you will pay a tax until actual sale of the stock. This create timing option for the investors. Capital gain are preferred to dividend, everything else equal. So if the capital gain is high, then you will prefer a dividend if dividend are tax a bit low. Thus high dividend yielding stock should sell at a discount to generate higher before tax rate of return. For example, if this is your share and this is another shares which is $12, okay, this is giving continuously a dividend and it do not give any dividend. Investor invest in this share will only for the capital gain, but investor in this share will also consider a capital gain as well as dividend. So on the dividend the shareholder will pay a tax. Let's suppose if the tax is 20%, then it would be the dividend after tax. This guy will receive $1.6. Why? Because 20% tax, the 40 cent will be withheld in tax. So 1.6, the actual return is 1.6. So this this investor, when buying this $10 shares, will discounted it for that 1.6 profit, because he will buying it at a less price in order to gain high after tax return. It means that the dividend basically negatively influences the price of the shares. Certain institutional investors pay no tax. Sometimes the dividend, for example, in A Limited, a mutual fund or any other fund or any pension fund for whom the tax exemption is available, they will buy a share of A Limited who have a good history in paying tax. So a huge institutional investor in A will contribute to the upper movement of the share. It means that dividend can have a positive impact on the share as well. Relevance of dividend, again, taxes on investor continued. So another point is, corporation can typically exclude 70% of dividend income from taxation. Thus, corporation generally prefer to receive dividend rather than a capital gain. Sometimes when this is, let's suppose, not individual investor, it is any corporate body, T Limited, and it invested in A Limited, so dividend paid to T is tax exempted, and the history shows that 70% of the dividend paid to the corporation are excluded from the tax. So these corporations prefer those stock who pay a dividend rather than a capital gain. So these corporation investment in this type of stock who are paying dividend positively influence the share price of the shareholder. The result is clientele of investor, means some investor do not prefer dividend, some investor do not prefer dividend, and some investor prefer dividend. They do not, let's suppose, prefer dividend. These investors who are corporate bodies preferred dividend. So in equilibrium, there will be a proper distribution of the firm with differing dividend policy. Some firms will keep in mind the preferences of these investors, while some firm will make a dividend policy keep in mind the preferences of those investors who value dividend. Thus, dividend payout decisions are irrelevant when there is an equilibrium. Well, different dividend policies to exactly meet the need of the investors. So the dividend policies itself have no relevance in wealth of shareholder. Other dividend issues. Why dividend are not issued or issued? Flotation cost, transaction cost, and divisibility of securities. That is another issue. What is transaction cost? Means that dividend when paid by the company also pays certain incur certain cost by issuing or by paying the dividend. Institutional restrictions, sometimes the company are restricted by by any bank, that the company will not pay any dividend unless and until meet their strong covenants, such as paying their principal interest amount first, or keeping interest coverage ratio up to certain level, liquidity ratio certain level. This type of instruction are put by the company. Financial signaling, sometime the dividend decision give positive signal to the market, sometime it gave negative signal to the market. Why positive? Sometimes it give positive signal that the company earn huge profit, and therefore it paying a dividend in this year. Why negative? Might be that investors think that the company have no growth opportunity, that's why they are paying a dividend. Sometimes dividend are not issued because the company use its earning into financing. This external earning is easily available rather than issuing a new security. Issuing a new security also, there is a flotation cost for issuing a new shares. Flotation cost means when a new share are issued, it would be the company would face many costs. That is prospectus cost, advertisement cost, underwriting commission, and other timing of the executive paid to issue a new share. So it is very easy that the company may issue a new share, but company always prefer to use this external and internal sources of earning in the new project. So the dividend are sometimes the company refrain from issuing a dividend due to these type of restriction or issues. What is empirical testing? Empirical testing means that that are searched through research or by testing many companies. When research studies provide some finding, we call that as empirically tested. Dividend are taxed more heavily in present value terms than the capital gain tax. So before tax return should be higher for higher dividend paying firms. It is said that, let's suppose, if you postpone your $5 of earnings until the end of the year, you will pay, let's suppose, 20% or 20% tax on it. But that 20% at the end of year is worth less than the 20% at the start of the year. So when the company pay a dividend, its tax current value or present value is higher. So before tax returns should be higher for the higher dividend paying firm. So it means that those firms who are paying consistent dividend will try to earn higher pre-tax return in the company. Empirical results are mixed. Recently, the evidence is largely consistent with the dividend neutrality, that the dividend have no relevancy with the dividend policy. Dividend have no relevancy with the wealth of shareholder. So if the company increase, issue, declare, or do not declare, or they declare less, or they declare high, it have no effect on the shareholder wealth, neither increase it nor decrease it. This is called neutrality. Financial signaling. And signaling means what the investor in the market will perceive the dividend declaration. Maybe these investors expect that increase or decrease in dividend lead to positive or negative excess stock returns. It is both expectation, and we can make that either may increase positive, decrease negative. Empirical results are consistent with this expectation that increase in dividend have positive impact on stock return, decrease in dividend have negative impact on stock returns. Implication for corporate policies. How the corporate policy should be established or should be formulated. Establish a policy that will maximize shareholder wealth. First of all, this is the first point. Distribute excess fund to shareholder and stabilize the absolute amount of the dividend if necessary. Passive strategy should be applied. Payout greater than excess amount fund should occur only in environment that has net preferences for the dividend. So if the company provide a dividend that is more than the excess fund, that are residual fund that have been left with the company, and the company declare a dividend more than this leftover amount, that should be only in those environments where the dividend is a prime preferences of the shareholder. Otherwise, they should not increase the residual left over with the company. Further, there is a positive value associated with modest dividend, means higher dividend do not increase value, lower in dividend do not increase value, only modest dividend provide increase value of the shareholder. Could be due to institutional investor or signaling effect. It may be that it give positive impact, or it may be that there are some institutional restriction on the companies, then they are not allowed to pay a higher dividend. Like bank, if lend money to any company, will put restrictions in order to ensure that their principal amount and their interest will be recovered. Dividend in excess of passive policy do not appear to lead to share price improvement. That is, as we discussed earlier, because the taxes and flotation cost. A factor influencing dividend policy are if funding is needed by the company or the firm, there will be no dividend for that year. If the company have liquidity problem, do not have a cash, they will restrain or they will hesitate to declare a dividend, because liquidity is very much necessary to pay the dividend. Secondly, if the company consume its borrowing capacity, the dividend will not be issued. If there is a restriction in debt contract, protective covenants from the bank, again the company will not issue a dividend. Control firm means if the firm is controlled by other firms or holding company, again dividend is hard to be seen in such type of company. Dividend stability. What is dividend stability? We will discuss it with the below diagram. Dividend stability means that let me jump by myself. In first case, let's suppose there is a 50% dividend payout, and the company, let's suppose, follow this pattern. This is stability. Dividend, when your earning per share increase, that is your earning per share, then dividend payout per share will also be increased. If it is stable, it will be stable. Earning per share increase and earning per share increase, dividend per share increase. Earning per share decrease, dividend payout ratio decreases. Earning per share again decrease, dividend decreases. Again decrease, decreases, again decrease to the peak, again increase, that also increase, decrease, also decrease. So earning per shares is basically the function of the dividend per share. But what will happen? Let's suppose the investors are very much happy at this level. Now we are receiving a high dividend. But when it fall, there will be a negative signal. What will happen? There will be a negative signal in the market that why the company share decreases. So it is one of the disadvantage of this type of dividend, stability. So the company have to consider this point when it have a stable dividend policy. So increase is always good, but when sudden decrease in the shareholder occurred, the investor will be discouraged, or they might receive a negative signal that the company is in trouble. That's why we are not receiving, or share or dividend are decreased. What will they do? They might divest their share, and it will negatively influence the price of the share. Now, dividend stability is like this. Don't straight away follow the earning per share pattern. This is the pattern. So this is one of the stable dividend, and then there is a slight decrease if your earning per share increase, and it continue. And if the dividend earning per share increase in that way, so what we will do, the company should do in that specific one step higher again. So there is no decrease in the dividend per share. And the negative signal, as we discussed in earlier diagram, can be countered in this way, that stepwise. In first step, stable dividend, and then slight increase, again stable dividend, slight increase, again stable dividend. That will prevent a negative signal signaling in the market. Valuation of dividend, how the investor value dividend stability. Informational contents, these are basically that what management provide or what management communicate implicitly by announcing the dividend. Management may be able to affect the expectation of investors through informational contents of dividend. Stable dividend suggests that the company expects stable growth or growing dividend in the future. What they are doing, they are communicating to the investors that we have a stable growth, and even we are growing in a stable way, so our future is not dark, and we will continue give you a dividend in the same way. Current income desire. There may be some people or some investor who prefer current income rather than a dividend or the money a year later or 2 years later. A bird in hand theory again work. There are some investors who desire specific periodic income will prefer the company with stable dividend to one with unstable dividend. There are institutional investors who, let's suppose pension fund, paying their monthly pension to the people, and they need a stable earning like stable dividend like this. Institutional consideration should also be keep in mind when these are value are means that dividend policies are made. Stable dividend may permit certain institutional investors to buy a common stock, as they meet requirement to be placed on the organization approved list. means sometimes some investor have restriction that they must, means these are list of the companies who are paying constant dividend. Let's suppose these are 50 company list that they are paying constant dividend. So the institutional investor IV should invest in these list of the companies. Thank you. This was all about today lecture. See you in a coming lecture on the same topic.